Hi guys, welcome back to my channel if you guys are new here. Hi, my name is Sydney. I film cruelty-free beauty videos 3 times a week. Today's video, I thought it would be really fun to kind of chat and reflect on fall releases of past. So I'm primarily focusing on fall releases that happened last year in 2018. I kind of want to talk about what released, whether I bought it or not, whether I'm still seeing people talk about it, whether I feel like it's a product that really kind of held on and really kind of had some traction in the crazy makeup industry, because you guys know how fast things come out. I feel like something's old in 2 weeks and people aren't talking about it anymore. So I really thought it would be fun to kind of reflect on these products, see how I feel about them, see how kind of the industry and kind of the community feels about them still. Oh, and before I get into the video, I did want to note that this look is, I did film it. I used my Natasha Denona Metropolis Dupe the Vibes palette, so I'll link that video down below to give you guys some more details on the actual palette. But the actual tutorial should be up on my Instagram, so if you guys are interested, head over there. But without further ado, let's hop into the video. I scrolled all the way back through Trendmood to 2018 to find these specific products and these screenshots that I'm of course going to insert on the screen for you guys so you can see what product I'm talking about if I don't own the product. But oh my goodness, it took so long. I did not realize how much she posts. I scrolled for a good like 20 minutes and then I spent time picking out these releases. It was much more intense than I planned it to be, but I'm gonna scooch over just a little bit. All right, so now let's get into the releases. So the first one I would like to talk about is the Huda Beauty Precious Stones eyeshadow palette. So these were these little 9-pan palettes that she came out with. She came out with quite the range. She came out with 5 different palettes: a blue one, a purple one, a cranberry, a green, and kind of an orangey warm one. I died when I saw these, you guys. I loved them so much, and I have almost bought one like 100 times. I can't even tell you how many times I've almost bought one. Every time I go to Sephora, I go and look at them and I swatch them, but I feel like, I don't know if it's because once I really look at them really hard, I don't like all of the shades in them enough to buy them, or if it's just because there are so many choices now, especially because she now has the Neon Obsessions and she had the original 5 Obsessions palettes too, that I just feel like overwhelmed by them and I can't make a decision. But I personally really like this launch. I was super excited about it. I do see these floating around on Instagram. I don't hear them talked about on YouTube so much anymore, but I do see them floating around on Instagram tutorials here and there, so I think they've held on kind of well. I don't think they're still super relevant, but they definitely haven't disappeared like some of the releases that I am going to talk about. Next, we have the Morphe 35V Stunning Vibes Artistry Palette. This was a palette that they released last fall. It has a nice mix of neutrals, kind of berries, blues, a couple purples. This palette just really did not call to me. I did buy a Morphe palette in the fall, and I think that's the one we might talk about next, but it wasn't this one. I thought this one was pretty, but I just kind of realized that it wasn't anything unique to my collection. I hadn't really started like hardcore going into my collection, trying to really dupe things out and only buy things that are really going to bring value and uniqueness to my collection. But this one was just a really easy pass for me. I just didn't really like the color story. I felt like I had all those neutrals already and I had those tones kind of scattered throughout my collection. And I don't see this one really anywhere anymore, so I don't think this one has stood the test of time very well. Alright, I lied. The next palette is not a Morphe palette. It's the Naked Cherry palette. So I actually think this palette is really pretty. It's kind of been one that in the back of my mind I'm like, oh, if that goes on sale for half off, maybe I'll buy it. But I would never buy it at full price. Not because it isn't a pretty palette and I don't like the color story. I just have these tones in my collection and I know that I probably don't need another palette full of them, especially for like 54 bucks. So yeah, I've heard a couple people talk about the Naked Cherry lately, but it hasn't really been something that I've consistently been seeing anywhere kind of in the beauty community. So I would say that this one has really not stood the test of time very well. Oh, this one, the next one up is the Too Faced Original Gingerbread palette. So if you guys didn't know, over the summer, Too Faced re-released this palette, which really had me just kind of scratching my head, because why would you release the gingerbread palette in the summer? Or wasn't it a Christmas launch? I don't know. I was kind of confused with the timing of the release, but I do like this palette. I liked it last year. I thought about grabbing it when it went on sale, but at the wanting just kind of passed. It wasn't really anything that I was like, oh my gosh, this is a must-have. And I feel like I've seen this one pop up here and there again more recently in the past couple months, obviously because it was restocked, so people were pulling it back out to create more looks with. But before that, I feel like no one was really using it, so I don't think this one stood the test of time very well. Alright, this next palette is actually the first one that I actually bought last year, and that is the Morphe 35M Boss Move palette. So this palette totally captured my heart, you guys. I just totally fell in love with the color scheme. I feel like it was in my birthday month, because I think I got like 2 times the points and I had like a coupon to use. But I ran into Ulta, I got this palette, and I like fell in love with the color story. And I feel like this one generated a lot of buzz for maybe a month or two, which is kind of long for a Morphe palette. When it was released, it just has a really, really gorgeous, very fall appropriate color scheme. But since then, I haven't seen it too often. I have seen it here and there. It's not one that's completely disappeared, but it isn't one that I see people reaching for all the time or saying, oh, I need to grab this now that it's fall again. But I am definitely one of those people who's like, I need to grab this now that it's fall again, because I love the color story. I just think it's so rich and beautiful, and I love it. I don't really love the formula on this palette. It's not really my favorite. I don't think it's Morphe's best, but it does have a gorgeous color story. Oh, you guys. These 2 palettes, this palette and the last palette, were kind of my jam last fall. These were the ones that I was so excited to purchase, and I was so happy that they were finally mine. And the next one is the ColourPop Fall Edit Collection. So I'll insert a picture of the whole collection right here. So I only ordered one thing from the collection, and that was the Good Sport palette. And I hemmed and hawed about this one for so long. I'm sure there's a haul video on my channel, and I'm sure I got it on sale. But this one is so beautiful, you guys. I love this palette so much. I think the color story is so fun and grungy, and I feel like I was making those videos. Do you guys remember those videos that I used to make? They were like makeup I wish brands would come out with. I think I made one, or I was in the process of making one, and I wanted to include like a really grungy palette from ColourPop, and then they came out with this, and I was so happy. I loved it so very much. I really haven't seen anyone talk about it again, kind of since last fall. I haven't really even seen people mention it kind of this fall, kind of saying, hey, pull this one back out. But I would definitely like to do a couple looks with this palette, maybe for Instagram, to kind of showcase how perfect it still is for fall. Next release that I wanted to talk about is MAC Powder Kiss lipsticks. I was dying over these lipsticks. Everyone and their brother was talking about them, swatching them, saying how wonderful and unique the formula was, and I was dying over them. And I wanted one so bad. Oh my goodness, I can remember going through Ulta's app and like going through all the shades and trying to figure out which shade I was gonna buy. I wanted these so bad. I really don't hear anyone talking about them anymore. I do know that some other brands have come out with similar formulas since this one launched. I know that ColourPop has the Ultra Blotted lip, or I think it might be called something else. It's like the Ultra Blotted lip, but it's in like a lipstick form. This was one that I wanted so bad, but I don't really see anyone talking about it anymore. Next palette that I want to chat about is one that I purchased, and that is the Friendcation palette from Dose of Colors. This was like the palette of last fall. I feel like everyone was raving about this palette, everyone loved it, and you guys, I lusted after this palette for months and months and months. I finally got it for Christmas, and I was so ecstatic, and I really haven't used it as much as I thought I would. It's a good palette, there's nothing wrong with the shades in here. I feel like it was overhyped a little bit. It's like I'm saying, it's still a great palette. It wasn't all of my dreams come true, you know what I mean? But this came out last fall, and I feel like everyone and their brother was talking about it. People use it here and there occasionally. I don't think it's totally been forgotten about, but it's definitely not as talked about now as it was then. Ooh, next up we have the Sultry palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I feel like this one is a very interesting release because I feel like this kind of marked the end of ABH's really, I don't want to say thoughtful because I have no idea what their process is, I have no idea what they really put into palettes, but this was their last kind of spread out release. I feel like ever since this palette and forward on, they have been releasing palettes like this, like especially with these ABH Norina volumes. It's too much, you guys. They've launched a new palette like every 2 weeks. And I feel like ABH used to be a brand that I really respected because they really put a lot of time and effort into these palettes, and maybe they still do put a lot of time and effort into these palettes, and it's just so much behind the scenes that we don't see. But I really appreciated that they've really kind of spread out their releases, really created a lot of content around those releases before they release a new product. So anyways, back to Sultry. So for a time, it was maybe like a couple weeks, I was like, I want that palette, and I wanted it so bad. I went to stores, I swatched it. I'm usually not a cool tone gal, and I'm still not a cool tone gal by any means, and I think it's really pretty, but I didn't pick this one up even when it went on sale for half off. It's just really not my jam. I do see people mention this one quite frequently still, which is kind of surprising. I feel like it's sticking out so much in people's minds and collections because we're kind of lost in a sea of warm neutrals still. I feel like we're slowly coming out of it, but this one was was just something different. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air for people in their collections. Next new release I want to talk about are the Persona Color Theory Kits. So I ended up getting sent one of these from Persona, and I was sent the pink one. I'm just going to hold up the palette because I don't know where that little bag went. I know I kept it, but I don't know where I put it. So here's what the little palette looks like. It also comes with a burgundy liner and a brush, I believe. I love the brush. The Persona brush is absolutely fantastic. It's so multifunctional, but she released this one and then she released a beautiful copper one. I feel like these releases, while I love them and I think they're kind of genius, I don't feel like these have stood the test of time that well. I see them very rarely on Instagram and sometimes on YouTube, but they're not really things that people talk about or reach for so much anymore, which I really do hope changes, because there are so many incredible products that have been on the market that maybe came out a year ago, 2 years ago, and that people still own and they have in their collection. You don't just buy makeup to use for a season, or at least I don't. I like to use my makeup all year long. I would like to use more of my makeup up. I know I probably won't be able to use all of it up, but I would like to use more of it up, and this is just another example of an amazing product that isn't getting the love that it deserves. Next palette that I don't hear anyone talking about, and it makes me so sad because this palette is so awesome, is the BH Cosmetics Royal Affair palette. I believe this was their fall/holiday launch of last year, and this palette is gorgeous, you guys. It's so beautiful. I feel like it has a gorgeous mix of kind of warm tones, cool tones, neutral shades, some tiny little pops of color, nothing too crazy at all, but I just think this palette is absolutely gorgeous, you guys, and I wish that it was still talked about, kind of used in tutorials. I did mention this in my top 10 old picks for fall video, so if you guys want to see my other top 10 old picks for fall video, I'll link that down below. I've featured a lot of face products, lip products, it's mostly eye products, let's be honest, that's mostly what I talk about on this channel anyways, but I just thought this one was such a great release. It was so high quality, and I don't know why anyone doesn't talk about it anymore. I have not heard anyone say a word about this palette since it launched, which is really sad. This next palette is one that I have continued to lust after to this day, and that is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. You guys, this was the palette that kind of sparked this crazy like want in me to actually try a Natasha Denona palette, like a bigger palette, and test out her incredible formula, because this one for some reason just like has me in its clutches and it will not let me go. I dupe the palette, I go in stores and swatch it, I see it in person, I see someone create a look with it, and I want it again. I can't get it out of my head. It's so beautiful, and this is one palette that I think has definitely stood the test of time. I don't know if it's just because it's so exorbitantly priced and people paid so much money for it that they really want to get their money's worth out of it, but I see people use this palette all the time. I hear them talk about it all the time on YouTube, and I just feel like this one has not lost relevancy. Okay, the next release I want to talk about is the Huda Beauty New Nude palette. Now, this is one that I actually just purchased about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, that sounds about right. I've been wanting this palette so badly since it released, and it's not so unlike me. I do love these berry kind of cranberry tones, and I love anything shimmery and glittery on my lids. I'm usually not a cool tone gal, and this palette is predominantly cool toned. This one is just so beautiful, you guys. So this originally launched last fall. Obviously, duh, I mean, that's what this whole video is about, and I feel like this one has not lost relevancy. I still see people use it, definitely not as much as when it was first released. I see people use it all the time on Instagram, not so much on YouTube, but definitely on Instagram. I'm so excited that it's finally in my collection. I cannot wait to play with it some more. Whew, I feel like that one was a really long one. I really hope that I can work some editing magic and make this like less than 15 minutes, fingers crossed. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun kind of going back through old releases, kind of discussing with you guys what I bought, if I bought it right away, if I bought it when the hype kind of went down, if I still use it, what my thoughts are on it. I thought it was super fun. Leave it down in the comments below what your favorite releases of fall past were. Was it like the Modern Renaissance? Was it, I'm trying to think what other like quintessential fall palettes have launched in the past couple years, like Subculture? Let me know in the comments below what your favorite fall products were of the past. I'd love to sit and chat about them with you guys and show some old makeup some love. So that's gonna wrap it up for me today, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!